Hello and welcome once again to another Pro Wrestling Post podcast. On this week's show,
We mourn the loss of Joesph Animal Laurinaitis. Rest in peace, Road Warrior Animal. Oh, what a rush. We also saw the unmasking of Retribution, and yet when we were unmasked, we saw ridiculous.
From All Elite Wrestling, Miro's in-ring debut, Cody Rhodes returns from a extended absence, and Lance Archer tests positive for COVID.
and in your indie news, we will give you an update on the New Japan G1 standings and an amazing NWA women's match. All that and more. Hello there, folks. How are we? We are back with a vengeance. Once again, I am sat here across the pond from my fellow Pro Wrestling Post podcast guys. How are we, Mark? How are we, Pete?
Amazing.
Yeah, doing all right despite the weather here.
Yes,
It's been very humid on our side.
Yeah, I think you've taken our weather from over here across the pond, because up until 2 days ago, it was like an Indian summer and it was 26, 27, 28 degrees over here. And it's all gone now. It's typical fall/autumn weather, and I'm not feeling that great, but I'm here powering through because that's what wrestlers do, isn't it? They all power through. So we're talking about wrestling. Let's power through together. How's Mark doing?
Mark is doing good. Mark is just super stressed, but as goes life, get through the stress and enjoy I guess the pros of what's out there. So I'm just very tired. That's just pretty much it. Trying to be cohesive in this wrestling world.
Let's jump straight into this week's pod. We spoke about what you spoke about in the intro there, about the unfortunate and untimely passing of Road Warrior Animal.
Yeah, it was very unexpected. It was announced. So as we're recording this is Thursday night that we're recording. It took place, I believe, Tuesday evening late. It was announced to everyone early Wednesday morning, and the response has been utter grief. For one thing, it's just added to what's been already a very challenging year for lots of people, no doubt. And when your heroes pass and fan favorites pass away, it's becomes even that much more so, right? They're your memories of your childhood. And for three of us, we grew up watching early WWE or WWF or NWA, or were familiar with it, or saw the runs that they had as that team, and Animal was the constant.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their body of work and the stuff that they were able to accomplish in America and Japan, worldwide, really. You really see that these two guys who were just larger than life, loved wrestling, did so much for the industry. Really set the template for the powerhouse tag team.
It did.
I have two major recollections for the Road Warriors / Legion of Doom. I didn't know of them as the Road Warriors until way after the event. They came into me in my history as the Legion of Doom, and them turning up at SummerSlam over here in the UK on those Harleys was absolutely mind-blowing. I was just reaching my high point of fandom, and seeing them come down the walkway, the gantry, the aisle, and it was just on those, it's just amazing. And then second thing, and it's quite selfish of me, the second thing is that they kind of introduced me to Sonny, and that kind of made me grow up probably a bit before my time. But they're the two major takeaways I get. I can't really remember much of their matches. It was just the look, the feelings that they gave me, the atmosphere that they brought with them. Oh, man, that was so damn good.
One of the things that was interesting about them in their earlier days, like there was a real run earlier times in the NWA Mid-Atlantic times where they were this really strong, dominant team, and they would just burrow through everybody. But Road Warriors or the Legion of Doom together as a faction wasn't just them and Paul Ellering. So here's a bit of a trivia question. Pete would probably know this, so he's going to have to probably hold from that. But there is another WWE Hall of Famer who was part of that faction that is now part of AEW. Name that member. You might know that, Mark. We should have Jeopardy music for this question.
Oh my word, my mind has gone blank. A Hall of Famer that's
Jake
in
Roberts.
Jake Roberts.
Yeah, he was part of them.
Originally in the Legion of Doom when they were formed in 85.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. See, I did not know that. Holy crap, that's blown my mind. Wow. Can you imagine the swerve that would happen if Jake stuck with that?
Yeah.
Jesus.
But he was so strong on his own that he could do that.
Oh yeah. Oh man, can you imagine the promos that they would have had if Jake stayed?
Ooh.
Oh, my mind is all kind of messed right now. Jesus.
That would seem sort of out of place almost, considering how very quiet and well-spoken Jake the Snake Roberts was compared to Hawk and Animal, who spoke like this and wanted to destroy everybody.
Oh yeah.
Would have been
attract.
would have been more interesting promos.
Oh, they would have gone. They were a proper roller coaster of promos. They would have been all like the soft, gentle tones of Jake leading you up to the top, and then all of a sudden you got like Animal Hawk just come in and start ranting and raving like this. Yeah, well, that would have been brilliant.
I mean, it's funny when you think of the Road Warriors, you always think of What a Rush, and that was never Animal's line. That was Hawk's line.
Mm-hmm.
That was his way to close everything. If I could ever remember like a signature line from Animal, was "Tell him Hawk," and he would slap him on the chest. So his signature line was setting it up to his partner to say.
Exactly, doing what a good partner does and just sets him up, ready for the finish, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, it is a sad day. Sorry, Pete.
Has anyone heard the legends of the matches that ended with Animal's Power Slam?
No.
Which ones?
Well,
Later years, earlier years?
All of them.
Okay.
When there was a Road Warriors match that ended when Animal hit a Power Slam, it was because whoever they were going up against was afraid to take the Doomsday device.
That makes a damn lot of sense. Wow, that's a scary bump.
Yeah, it really is, because you're head over heels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No way, no how. And I don't think Hawk ever kind of pulled from the diving clothesline. I think he meant to literally take your head off and flip you over at the same time. That was just an after effect, but that makes a lot of sense. But these wrestling deaths that happen quite frequently now, they are us older guys. They're affecting. I don't know about you two, but they affect me more now. They make me more aware of my own mortality. When my guy growing up was Warrior, and when he passed, I was knocked for six. I'm not going to lie. I was speaking to all my wrestling friends over here in the UK, and they was like, "Oh my God, this is up." And it felt like someone close to me had died. As strange as that sounds, because he was such a huge part of my childhood, and he made me. It's a piece on Pro Wrestling Post, one of my first pieces, where I speak about how much effect Warrior had on me, how much he changed my views of music, my views of wrestling, my views of everything, because of his character. And even though he said and did a lot of stupid stuff afterwards, and he was a welcome back into WWE with open arms, and I was just expecting more of the same, and then for him to pass, it was just so sudden. And these wrestling deaths that are happening now are just so sudden. And for finding out that he passed away from natural causes, it just knocks me for six. Really does.
I think the way I handle it is a fair bit different, considering that my guys, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, passed away when I was 14.
Yeah. And
that really kind of took me out of the product altogether for like the next 7 years.
Wow.
So what was it that brought you back?
The rise of Daniel Bryan. I thought that it was because like the year before you had the end of an era match with Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and The Undertaker, and that kind of gave me the idea that maybe there was going to be some change up in how in what the landscape of WWE is going to be like, and that turned out not really to be the case, as Daniel Bryan got injured and John Cena took the WWE Championship after that. But that brought me back, and then I kind of stayed because NXT was a thing, and I really liked NXT at that time.
I can't think of a better segue into our next subject. But before we do go into our next subject, once again, on behalf of Pete and Mark and everyone on Pro Wrestling Post, we send our condolences to the Laurinaitis family. And yeah, much love to everyone there. As Pete so succinctly said in his little piece there, back then when NXT was really on fire, everything was great. Now we have Retribution, and everything is crap. Discuss.
Well, when you look at them outside of a really popular meme right now that's happened with, I think we talked about it just before we went to record, is CM Punk making fun of, thought that was Slapjack's face, but maybe it was Mace, maybe it was T-Bar. I think it was Slapjack, which was Shane Thorne, right? Who...
I'm not even sure who's who, to be fair.
They haven't done a really good job.
No, it's...
Yeah.
Who's on first? I don't know who's on second.
Yeah,
it's an Abbott and Costello routine going on there, right? It really, the mask itself, and being made fun of it looks comical, like a paper plate. And CM Punk made fun of it when you've got too much time in catering, and that's just what you do. The voice box sounding as though you're Bane, and really feels like, I think we were talking about it, and that it kind of comes across like it's trying to take from a Marvel universe. Mia Yim's name hasn't been revealed as to what it is, or Mercedes Martinez, so I'm sure that'll come about next week. But do more members become announced? Underwhelming?
Incredibly.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I mean, you've got these, and also you got to consider that there's all the other people that just show up whenever Retribution's around. Like, who are those people? Do they have contracts? Oh yeah, here's another question. On Raw, we found out that Retribution now have WWE contracts, and this somehow means that they're allowed to just run around and cause havoc whenever they please.
The whole point of Retribution was that they was against the system. They was anti this and anti that. So for them to now turn around and be part of the system they were trying to break by having contracts kind of goes against what they were standing for in the first place. So what is the point? Now they've got what they wanted, which was a contract. Surely they should just disband now. But no, they've had, origami fun with paper plates and thought up silly little names. I don't understand.
Well, now what's your motivation? Now you've got your contract. What is it that you want? What's your motivation?
Well, exactly. There is nothing. They've got what they wanted, unless they wanted to make some more anarchy, in which case they're under contract, so they could get fired. So they've shot themselves in the foot. Was
the intention to get hired in order to get fired? I don't know. So they can continue to create more havoc.
Last week, dear listeners, we did record a pod, but the audio gremlins had totally ruined the pod, so it didn't go out. But we did say how much we were looking forward to this Retribution storyline because of what happened the week before that, where there was all the mystery and intrigue, and there was some storyline progression. We was like, yes, this is it. They've lit the spark. It's going to be amazing. So we're not anti-Retribution at all. But fast forward a week, and we've got this pile of trash. And it's just unreal how much goodwill, as Pete said, how much goodwill that they have just completely undone with it all. I'm flabbergasted, to put a nice English word on it.
So while I was looking up the members of Retribution, there was an article that came up from Ringside News about the particularly crude alternate meanings of the members' names.
Oh, I like a bit of crude. What we got?
Do we need to have the censor bar on? Or, sorry, the T censor bar on when you say these names?
We need to turn the T chip on. Okay, so Mace. We're fairly familiar with what Mace is. Says here from Urban Dictionary, a heavy spiked metal club used for breaking heads, a suitable substitute for the pepper spray. Fair enough. T-bar, when one is wearing a thong/G-string and they sit down and it sticks out, you see a T-bar. So here's the one we might have to censor out. Slapjack.
Can you be suggestive?
Okay. The act of, let's say, enjoying yourself.
Okay.
And then slapping another person in the face.
Oh my word.
So how how did they get that beyond the censors?
Well, now you've said this just takes me back to, was it sorority sisters?
Oh yeah, the submission sorority.
Yeah, that was a bloody porn company or something. So no one's doing their due diligence and making sure that these words are not have double meanings. Surely, or they're doing it anyway to make themselves, look good with the kids,
without actually taking into consideration what the kids are actually saying.
Oh wow. So then basically,
I'm hip, damn it.
So basically, after CM Punk's tweet, and then whoever it was did a nice little retort and said, "Oh, you're a grumpy old vet," and the rest of it. They haven't got a leg to bloody stand on. If someone's going to take the mick out of their name, especially from Urban Dictionary, which I know a lot of kids use, they haven't got a leg to stand on. Oh my words. Okay, so how are we feeling? I did say you was bowing down to the Cat Overlord, but I did say that we did record a pod last week. We were actually looking forward to the reveal of Retribution. Now there was some storyline progression, but now that's all gone.
Yep.
How are you feeling about it now, Pete?
So they laid out their game plan last time we spoke about it, and we were all happy about that. And now they've got this angle that doesn't make sense at all, where they have contracts and they can just beat up whoever they want, which, people used to lose title opportunities and championships and even their jobs for that. Remember when someone jumped someone else before the Royal Rumble and got in a massive amount of trouble for that?
Ooh, I can't remember that one. I have a vague recollection. I can't remember who it was.
Maybe I'm forgetting this one. So let's take a different route. Randy Orton. That one time when he was facing Seth Rollins and he spent the night RKOing everyone in sight. Wasn't there some consequence he had to face for that?
Didn't he get fined an extraordinary amount?
Yeah, there we go.
Or something along those lines? Yeah.
Yeah.
Storyline, by the way.
And there also used to be, I remember that time when Enzo Amore was Cruiserweight champion and he was pissing everybody off and he had it in his contract that no one could touch him.
That's right.
And that's, what is it what's so different about Retribution's contract that lets them get away with this kind of behavior? And like we said about the Goodwill, yeah, we thought this looked interesting, and then WWE comes along with this new take on things, and they start treating us like we don't remember these things. Like we can remember these important moments from different angles over the time we've been watching wrestling, and you can't just drill it into us that attacking people, causing havoc backstage like this has consequences, and then say, no, we've done something and now you can act with impunity.
I've been saying for a long time that Uncle Vince and everyone underneath him, they don't cater the product for us anymore. They cater it for the young kids that will go to their parents and say, we want this, we want that, we want the T-shirts, we want the figures, we want the next pay-per-view, whatever else. They don't cater to us anymore. We are the ones with the longer memories. We are the ones that remember everything that's happened. We know about storylines. They don't give a monkeys, as harsh as that sounds. All they care about is the young kids, because they're the ones that keep bugging us parents and saying, I want, and tugging at our T-shirts, whatever else.
And so we say, get off our lawn.
Yeah, old man yells at cloud. It is literally Uncle Vince sticking two fingers up saying, this is my company. I'm going to run it how I see fit, whether it makes sense to you guys or not. That's the way I see it.
Unless for whatever reason, advertisers voice displeasure with something and speak up, I think would they then make a change? Otherwise, I don't really see them doing that per se.
Yeah, if the advertisers find out about these questionable names for members of Retribution, they'll probably that's when we'll see the changes come about.
Oh dear, yeah. Oh man, I can see so many people linking their sponsors to Urban Dictionary,
and also they unmasked and then promptly put masks back on.
Yeah,
they'll never recognize us now with these things on.
Like we started to figure out who they were back when they had the balaclavas on. Makes no sense.
It is a cluster, and it's not gonna change no matter what they do. They've shot the whole storyline in the foot, and I know Shane Thorne is kayfabing us with his little online feud with Punk and trying to gain some notoriety and putting some eyes on the product and on Retribution itself. But it's it's for me personally, and for a lot of people that I talk to, it is past the point of no return. What did you say, Pete? Was it destined for disappointment?
Yep.
I think we're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, big sigh, collective sigh. The IWC sigh collectively over what could have been with Retribution. So from one storyline that's going down the pan to one that's peaked Mark for a few weeks. He's been trying for a few weeks now to talk about this on the pod, and I've been like, I'm not sure. And this past week it was like, right, it's time to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
This Mysterio family and the Seth Rollins family feud. Talk to me, Mark.
So it's had these layers that I my wife always makes fun of the Rey Mysterio promos. I think she says, if I hear the name my son Dominic one more time, it's like, who else is Dominic? Of course he's your son. I think we've beaten that horse as much as it's gonna be beaten. But it's less about that, and I think now the inclusion of all the other members. I'm just curious to see this dynamic now, because now we've seen his daughter become involved. Are they really going to try to tease of a paternity suit, or was that just kind of a coy something where they're going to manipulate the younger daughter and that she becomes a disciple and that she isn't going to, I mean, think of any teenager. Okay, Mark, you're a father of a teenager. I'm a father of a teenager. They can be defiant just to get back at their parents. Wouldn't this be kind of like life imitating art if that were the case?
I could definitely see that happening. Definitely.
Yeah.
But playing devil's advocate here, this is just a rehash from a story from 15 years ago.
Is the paternity portion of it is, but the defiant teenager who was never, like, I don't think that might just be a ruse in it actually teasing of something, because it almost felt like Ray kiboshed that. He's like, this has been done. He like was active, like, this has been done. We were there.
Mm-hmm.
We're stronger than ever. But then he threw in the she's just a kid kind of idea, and she doesn't know much better. And I know I've caught myself say that. Not that you don't know much better, but I've like, wait till you live a little bit, and then you can experience the mistakes that I've made, sort of idea.
Laying it out like that, I'm transported back to the late Attitude Era, and I can see Stephanie McMahon.
Mm.
It's a combination of the two with a few extra layers. Pete, what's your point of view on this?
So, is it a rehash of stuff that happened coming up on 15 years ago? Yeah. However, I think in the way that it's been presented, reminds me of a thing Chris Jericho said in an interview at one point. He was talking about pro wrestling as an art form and storytelling, and he mentioned that the similarities between how pro wrestling is presented and how like Shakespeare plays used to be done, and the kinds of drama and intrigue and whatnot that's happening there. And if I were in WWE Creative, I'd start playing it more like that, where you have these two like noble families bickering over whatever, what have you, and sort of have all of these different stories that kind of emerge out of that. And I think that's what they're trying to do, but it's not quite coming out that way.
Okay, so now, sorry, Mark. Now you've said it like that. Could it be heading down a Romeo and Juliet line?
See, he said bickering families. I was going to do that. Yeah.
Or, okay, you could go West Side Story. Go on, say West Side Story.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Fine.
Well, yeah, West Side Story.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
But yeah, now you've said it and laid it out a bit more easily for me to understand. It does have a lot of, Shakespearean Romeo and Juliet, West Side Story, which way you want to call it. So
10 Things I Hate About You. No, that was Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah. So how do we see this going? Is it going to follow those stories, that template, or is it going to skew off into its own little world at some point?
I'd like it to, and that's precisely why it won't.
Oh no. Yeah, you've said it now. Damn it.
Oh.
But so you would what you would like it for her to join, the daughter to join Seth's cult?
I would like for Aaliyah and Buddy Murphy to kind of have their own little island away from this and start to be the seeds of the downfall of both.
Okay, that's interesting. What about you, Mark?
I think because there's so much doubt and people not trusting Murphy, or at least the Mysterio family not trusting Murphy because of his association with Rollins. I don't know about the bickering side, because I don't think there's Rollins feeling the same way about not trusting the Mysterios, because he's quite manipulative. The idea of them doing their own thing, that's an intriguing idea. Be curious to see how that kind of plays itself out.
Well, it's more about them trying to do their own.
Yeah, and then maybe the conflict that come in with others being, interjecting themselves somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So Ray could play like the domineering father and go, no, you're not being around Murphy, and then Seth's going to be like the overbearing cult leader and say, no, you're not leaving me, and whatever else.
Exactly.
But that's the only, because right now we wouldn't get that impression. We feel like he's just a kicking, whipping boy that will do whatever Seth wants him to. So we've been led to believe that he's not going to. He's just, thank you, sir, may I have another, a la Tommy Dreamer, right? I don't know if there's going to be that just yet, but hey, you guys could be right, because it could unfold.
So, with Retribution giving us so much to possibly enjoy and then shooting us in the foot, are we expecting the same here? Are we expecting, I'm touching wood here, long-term storytelling?
We can dream.
We can hope. We can hope.
We can hope indeed. We can hope indeed. So, from that storyline, we're going to hop over to WWE's third brand. I'm going to quickly run down what happened last night on NXT. We don't normally do this, but quite a lot of things happened on the show that have a major impact, no pun intended, on the October 4th takeover. Now, Mark, did you see any NXT? Have you heard of anything from last night yet?
So, unfortunately, here in Canada, unless we're watching it through an illegal stream, we don't have access immediately. So if we're going to watch it on the level, we would probably have access to that. I believe it's on a Thursday night around 10 o'clock. It was airing that time on the network, and then we have it on network television on the Friday, where they condense the 2-hour show into 1 hour. It's like they just crush everything, take out commercials and stuff. Just looking into it, I'm more so intrigued about some of the matchups and some of the results that came about. Candice LeRae and what happened with Tommaso Ciampa and Jake Atlas. Those are the things that kind of stood out as being exciting. But I was excited about the debut of that one wrestler, some guy, right?
Yeah, they didn't even announce his name.
Yeah.
So, is there anything from last night that really took your fancy, Mark?
Because we haven't been able to access or watch it just yet, I'm intrigued about where they're going to go with certain. We've seen Candice LeRae take on this heel character and how they're going to push her forward. So now that she's going to face, I guess, spoiler, or they've announced it because it's aired, Io Shirai at NXT TakeOver in October. That's exciting.
See, I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't know if you know, but as the show started, Candice LeRae put Tegan Nox out of the Battle Royal. She backstage kind of altercation, and Tegan wasn't in the Battle Royal. Apparently, I haven't seen it myself yet, being over here in the UK. And with Candice winning the Battle Royal, could we see a triple threat? Could Tegan somehow get involved, or maybe even put up Candice's number one contendership?
Well, we have at least another episode of NXT before then. I think that's the thing we'll have to find out next week.
Yes. My love for Tegan is obviously well known, so I'm just happy she's being featured, and a feud with Candice has definitely put her even bigger on the map, so that's great.
Unfortunately, being from the great city of Winnipeg, Manitoba, I am contractually obligated to support Candice LeRae.
That's cool. That is cool. We all have these things we must do. So the second match on the card was Tommaso Ciampa. Is anybody happy with his new / old Psycho Killer gimmick? Because even though it's not been called Psycho Killer, it blatantly is his Psycho Killer gimmick from the Indies.
So I don't know if Pete's had the opportunity to see him compete live, but myself and one of our other writers on the site actually saw him at a Ring of Honor show where he completely obliterated a ring. Like he shredded it. And he walked in on flip-flops in a gymnasium, ripped apart a ring, jumped the rail, and left. And to see it live, it was astounding because you're so close to the action, right? And then you see plywood flying, like literally you see plywood underneath the mat flying, and the sheets are ripped, and this anger, this aggression that unhinged, like stone cold, turned up to like what seems like 100 in some cases. I'm loving that they're bringing it back. It's given another gear to the character because he was always of that ilk where he would do whatever was necessary, but now he was in a string of bad luck, and maybe he needed to reminded about who he is. Who are you, Tommaso Ciampa? I am the Psycho Killer.
I am reasonably familiar with Tommaso Ciampa as the Psycho Killer because I remember when he was one of the names they announced for Global Force Wrestling. I went through some of his old matches. I've seen a bunch of his stuff for PWG. Yeah, I think giving him that old edge back is probably best for his character at the moment, considering Tommaso Ciampa has come out and stated as much that he doesn't want to become part of the main roster anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
So I've made jokes several times on this podcast about the NXT main event holding pattern. Anything that can disrupt that, good.
Yes, you have said on a fair few occasions about this holding pattern, and this is definitely, as you've just said, helped him going forward. This basically is just putting on an old glove, and he slips right back into this character. As I said, they haven't actually called it the Psycho Killer. I don't think they will, because that means they have to acknowledge his indie past. But I, for one, am super happy. And his possible little mini feud with Jake Atlas, that looks promising too.
Mm-hmm.
Could we? I know we've spoken about this already, but Jake Atlas come out at the end of his Tommaso's match last night and said he will see him next week. Do you reckon there's enough steam to get a match on the takeover card? I know we've discussed, but could we?
If the next match has an inconclusive finish, we might.
Yeah, I think if at that case we have Atlas that's super motivated. It's one of those cases where if you continue to get beat, then you're there to prove yourself. He could easily generate enough steam where people are just going to start to pull behind Jake. And Jake's story, for anyone that followed him for his time, is so warming, and the fact that you want to see him succeed, the fact that he'd be facing Tommaso for a third time. I would definitely want to see that, and especially on an NXT card. It says something about trying to elevate the other talent.
Another thing, you asked Mark about other things that piqued our interest. I thought the bit with Fandango selecting the number one contenders for the tag champions for tag championships, clever. Very clever, and I think it really kind of hung a lampshade on all the weird matches they've been doing lately. Like that Fatal 4-Way Iron Man match and the gauntlet that took place last night. And that was neat. Oh, it was neat. Not
definitely different.
Yeah, we don't see that every day.
No, and you bang on there. It was Breezango doing something. I associate when a champion lays down the law, so to speak, and says, "I want this, I want that." I associate that with a heel. So for seeing Breezango not laying down the law, but asking Mr. Regal, here's an idea. That's different for a start, which is good. And the idea itself was different. and gave us a bloody great match as well. So, Pete, you was on about the gauntlet match earlier. We finished the show last night with the gauntlet match, with the crowning of a new number one contender and a surprise new number one contender. Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you indifferent? What's your feelings, Pete?
So I thought the way they did the gauntlet with the kind of Royal Rumble rules going on, where a new man entered every 4 minutes. That was an interesting way to do a gauntlet match when you only have a 2-hour show. But you talk about Kyle O'Reilly as a surprise number one contender, but I think it would have been a pretty decent surprise had anyone been the winner, because I think of these guys at Bronson Reed, Trevor Lee, Cameron Grimes, Kushida, Kyle O'Reilly. Am I missing someone?
Nope, that's your 5.
Yeah, I think of those 5 guys as guys who would be excellent contenders for say the North American Championship.
Right.
But to see any of these guys in the main event, this seems like the start of their main event push, and that could be, like I said, a big change into the NXT main event holding pattern. I'm excited for changes to that, even if Finn Balor is already a pretty big change to that. As for Kyle O'Reilly, yeah, he can go. I don't think he can go enough to beat Finn Balor. But if this is the start of Kyle O'Reilly main event player, yeah, that'll do the job.
So you're happy that Kyle's getting a shot. You're happy that Kyle could be upsetting the status quo in the main event scene.
Yes, that is my take here.
Excellent, Mark.
Much like Pete, I'm happy that they're going in a different direction and that Kyle is getting that opportunity to think back to what he had achieved in ROH, his really old blood feud with Adam Cole at the time, now stablemate, knowing what he's capable of doing, given that opportunity. He's got a lot of, to look at him, you wouldn't think that he's got some of the charm or charisma that he does, but then you see him and he really does. He really has this comical, kind of fun, relaxed way about him when he's gotten a chance to be silly or demonstrate that, and even being on the mic. So he may have another gear that we're getting a chance to see, and it's exciting. It's exciting because these opportunities are going to come somehow. So if it's not for this title, it might be for another.
All I'm hoping for is on the takeover on October 4th. I'm hoping that Triple H and then all the other agents give them 20, 25 minutes and let them do what they used to do in New Japan. That's all I ask. I want some strong style. I want some wrestling ability. I want some technical ability. And I want them to tear the sodding house down, because I know for a fact, just give them a chance and they will blow your mind. I've never seen them wrestle together, but I know that they look like a great pairing together in the ring.
Yeah, I was about to ask, is that a match that had happened in New Japan?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't have any information in front of me, and I don't want to touch my laptop because of the audio gremlins. But if they did, let us know. Give me some highlights, because I want to bloody watch it. But yeah, I just seeing Red Dragon in New Japan, and obviously I watched Devitt back in New Japan back in the day. Their styles are similar to a point. They're similar and not so similar to be, very good opponents against each other in my eyes. So yeah, if they have one match, point it towards me, because I need to see this. If they haven't, then I'm going to be even eagerer. That's not even a word. Even more eager to see them on October 4th, and I'm probably going to have to watch it live, which means I'm going to go into work. They haven't.
So they have never had a singles match against each other at any point, at any time, ever. That's been documented, at least by Cage Match. The only match was a tag team match where Balor was with the Street Profits at an NXT live show against the Undisputed Era.
Cool.
Nothing one-on-one.
That must have been a fantastic match.
Yeah.
6-man tag in Seattle. So, and that was roughly a year ago, because it was October 2019.
So there we have it, folks. A first time pairing off for the main title in NXT. I'm excited. Mark's excited. Pete's
Oh.
excited. I'm kind of hoping that, this is the match that kind of changes Pete's quite, incendiary opinion about Finn. But yeah, that's all to come on October 4th, which is 2 weeks away, I think. Less than that.
That's inspired an edition of Never Crossed Paths now too. So
I knew you were going to say that. So, listeners, if you don't know that the Never Crossed Paths series, it is a series that we have on Pro Wrestling Post where we look at an upcoming match between two guys or two women that have never had a match against each other before. So, just by mentioning
and the
this,
lead up to that match
has made Mark's creative juices flow, I think. So expect that in the next few weeks, I would imagine.
Or, maybe we put the dare out there. If Pete's interested, we could flip a coin. If he doesn't want to tackle it, I would tackle it. And I think that just gives us, because it's not a fantasy booking. They're headed to face each other. And what happens as they face each other and their stories separately and where they've been, and now this moment, this time, planets align, call it what you will, can be exciting. Hopefully they get the time that NXT main events typically do. The Keith Lee and the rather injured fellow Karrion Kross had was a little underwhelming, unfortunately, because of a situation. But at the same time, typically they get a good half an hour. So
we can only hope. And as Mark just said there, folks, you can expect to see not an unsung heroes, a Never Crossed Paths even, on those two combatants in the next few weeks. We are now going to quickly go back a day, and we're going to go to Tuesday's Impact. I'm going to quickly say to you guys, I haven't had a chance to see Impact yet, but Pete did throw us some news in the super secret Facebook group chat about Victory Road. Is that right, Pete?
Yes. So it looks like Eddie Edwards is going to get his rematch against Eric Young for the Impact World Championship at a Victory Road, which this year is a Impact Plus exclusive. So you're going to have the Impact Plus app if you want to see that. We believe that they're doing a 30-day free trial. Hopefully, thanks to the promotion, they might send us some. Impact, Scott D'Amore, you listening?
Wink, wink.
But yeah, that
Use
was
promo code.
That was the thing. That was one of the big takeaways from Impact Wrestling this week. I've got some other results from Impact here, if that's the thing we want to talk about.
Sure.
All right.
Indeed.
Read my feature, Brace for Impact, every Monday on the Pro Wrestling Post website. So, the show opened today with an X Division Championship #1 contendership match between TJP, Chris Bay, and Trey Miguel of the Rascals. This was some old school X Division action, very fast pace, had lots of high spots, lots of interesting offense, like TJP with that kind of sharpshooter camel clutch thing he did. TJP with the bridging Moodalock and only to get stomped by I believe it was Bay. Trey Miguel walks out the winner, which good for him. He's been on the title hunt quite strongly lately. And immediately after, Rohit Raju offers him the championship match and wins very quickly in decisive fashion with the surprise roll up, the most devastating move in all of wrestling.
The roll up of doom.
If you ask me, I mean, Trey looks kind of foolish taking that championship match right away, but it also seems, on the other hand, it also seems very much in line with the things he's been doing just to get his hands on a title. Right. He was the first to answer Eddie Edwards' open challenge for the Impact World Championship. He answered Moose's call, and now he's trying to get his hands on the X Division Championship.
So is that a fit of youthful rashness on his part there? He just wasn't thinking straight?
I think that's exactly what it is. He's got the adrenaline running after becoming a #1 contender from a very exciting match, and then Rohit Raju takes advantage of this to claim an easy win, and that really fits in with the predictions I made all the way back on episode 2, was it?
Yes.
about
yeah.
how Rohit Raju's championship reign was going to go.
Yes, the snidey, win at all costs, sneaky way.
Yeah, very Miz, very honky tonk man.
Mm-hmm.
After that match, there was Kimberly versus Susie with Deonna Purrazzo and Kylie Ray at ringside. Solid match because you have a worker like Su Yung, you have a worker like Kimberly. They come together and put together, you know, a good television match. Some more development on the Susie front as she wins yet again using the panic switch, finishing maneuver used by her villainous alter ego Su Yung. But I gotta ask, what's Kimberly getting out of this angle? She doesn't really have much of a storyline other than Deonna Purrazzo promising her a championship match if she's able to put a dent in Kylie Ray and Susie. But so far she hasn't, and I don't know how this is going to affect her coming out of it.
Is it a case of she's just being led on? You know, she's been surreptitiously being made to do someone else's bidding, thinking she's going to get something out of it, and then maybe the storyline is that she's going to wake up to all this down the line, and enough is enough, and it's time for a change.
I mean, quite probably, but if I remember correctly, it was Kimberly who suggested this partnership in the first place.
Ah.
So I'm starting to wonder if she's just working on her own faulty assumptions.
Very strange. But unlike some certain WWE booking, this is making you think. Rather than being predictable, this could go many, many ways, which is never a bad thing.
Yeah, that's unpredictability is more often than not good for the storytelling overall. You know, you want to tune into a wrestling show and with the idea that anything could happen. Following this, we had quite an interesting development in the EC3 and Moose angle. EC3 put Moose's phone number on screen and encouraged people to contact him.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, because they've been trying to find each other, and EC3 was like, yeah, just let's contact Moose, try to get him to find me.
Oh, I've just found it. Okay, guys and girls, international rates apply. Okay, but the number you want to ring is 407-457-8494. That's 407-457-8494. Oh my God, I'm so ringing that as soon as we're done.
Impact Wrestling, come on, toss us some freebies.
That's amazing. Oh,
like the only time I can remember anything like this happening was that time Al Snow was looking for his dog, and he gave a number live on TV, and it was Val Venus's phone number. Of course, no one would have known.
Oh,
because it was just like it was written very small. But if you pause and you can kind of make it out. And I wonder if anyone reached out.
Oh man, I might have to do some digging. That sounds like a fun story to cover, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh wow.
What else did we have on the show? RVD versus Sami Callihan. I'm losing interest in this whole feud, if you ask me. I think it's gone on a bit longer than it has to. And really, it's just kind of holding Callahan away from places he might be better suited.
Yeah, for sure.
Though this does remind me, I have a story about a time I saw Sami Callihan in Alpha One.
Okay.
Just a little bit of fan interaction story. So he was in a multi-man match for the Alpha One title, and I was really hoping he'd win that night, and I started chanting "Death Machine." Death Machine, because you know that's one of his chants. But I forgot something that happened earlier in that night, which was a surprise appearance by the other two members of Ohio versus Everything, Jake and Dave Christ. And as I did that, Sami Callihan, like his attention snaps over to me, and he stares daggers into me, and he shouts back, "Everything!" Because apparently I had the wrong gimmick. That was the gimmick he was working that night.
Oh dear. Oh dear. I'll take it you just took it on the chin and
I stopped that right then and there. But like, was some intense fan interaction from Sami Callihan there. So to finish up the show, the main event was Tenille Dashwood making her return to an Impact Wrestling ring to face Jordynne Grace. She put on a better showing here than I think she ever did as Emma in WWE. I wonder if this new gimmick of hers, where she has a personal photographer, is kind of a jab at the infamous Emelina angle, where she went on the makeover from Emma to Emelina and then promptly right back. Not showing any ring rust from her time away from the ring. But I gotta ask, is this angle the best thing for Caleb Conley at the moment? Caleb Conley portraying Tenille Dashwood's personal photographer.
It's a way of getting her on the show. It's a way of people knowing who she is.
Oh, I know. I'm not saying. I'm not. There's no question that this is probably for the best for Tenille. I'm just wondering about Caleb Conley.
For Caleb Conley.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when he was part of Cult of Lee, he was part of Cult of Lee, right? Years ago. So I mean, being part of a faction or being a hanger-on doesn't seem like it's too far of a stretch, because Caleb has been in a similar role, right? There was I think there were interactions at one point, or from what I can believe, with Scarlett as part of the Hot Show, or the Hot with Scarlett Bordeaux.
Oh, the Smoke Show.
The Smoke Show.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so hot that she's smoking. Yeah, the Smoke Show. So, and then you'd be looking at that engagement and that interaction. So Caleb fitting that role isn't a stretch. It's probably good. And just like you were saying, Mark, it does get him on the show. Mm-hmm. Not to get him on just to get him on, but it could just as well be something where he ends up doing bidding. He ends up engaging in a feud. Maybe there is something else that happens. When we spoke to Jordan, I want to say it was almost a year ago, maybe 6 months ago, when she actually captured the title, she was always looking forward to having this feud. She wanted to have some sort of exchange with Tenille. She mentioned it back then, and now it's coming to light now. Be excited, because those opportunities and those exchanges are going to happen with talent that never happened before. So I think it's best for those involved, especially if it was something that they were hoping would come to pass.
Now, well, I'll finish up here. Yeah, like you said, Caleb Conley getting on TV. You know, it could be a start of something new for him. I don't really see him as like the hanger on, because he seems to be more of a manager valet situation going on. But yeah, I guess I've just been thinking about it as strictly as him being a manager valet type person, and not someone who gets into the ring later on, a la Rico, Billy and Chuck's old stylist. You know, he had some on-screen time before he ever stepped into the WWE ring.
When you looked at Caleb spent some time in NWA because he did leave, and he was having some matches on Power. So if that came through and he wasn't getting a chance to develop any character, here you're getting that other side where it's not just in the ring, because the guy can go. His time on the indies itself, stuff with Callahan's promotion as well, Pro Wrestling Revolver, and holding Scramble championships or Scramble opportunities. He knows he's definitely capable. So this is going to be a nice start to something that could be something more.
So there we have it, folks.
Oh,
that's your Impact. Nope, that's not your Impact update.
That is not your Impact update, because I didn't get to the end of the show.
Oh, I thought that was the main event. My bad. Sorry.
That wasn't the main event, but there was still more show. There was what I can only describe as the worst beatdown angle ever. There was a mystery attacker who attacked Eddie Edwards as he was leaving the arena. However, there was a camera on him as he was leaving. The camera blacked out, and when it came back, Eddie Edwards was laid out. So unless the cameraman, whoever was operating that camera, was also knocked out, what's the mystery?
Oh dear. So it could be a truck faux pas where they've cut the feed, or the cameraman got a kick in, and when he came to, it was all over. Oh dear. See, things like that annoy me, because by the sound of it, Impact has had a good show, as like they have been for the last X amount of months. And then the one takeaway you're going to get from that show is, you know, that it's annoying. Oh,
like,
man.
we've had a couple beatdown angles lately, but like this one just seems to be like it's following the other ones just because it can, and
beatdown angle for beatdown angle's sake.
just to give Eddie Edwards something to do that isn't related to the Impact Championship.
So Pete, who would you feel that surprise attacker might be, if it is that much of a surprise?
I don't like. The obvious answer is Eric Young, wanting to take out anyone who could possibly like be a threat to his championship. But like after all of the times that he's come out to wail on someone, why would they keep it secret this time?
You're the champion.
Yeah, it would serve him if they're going to have their rematch at Victory Road. It would serve him to do that in broad daylight. There's no reason to hide his identity there. So who could it be? I really don't know.
So since we can take guesses and we go off the grid, who has history potentially with Eddie Edwards that could have motivation to want to take him out and take his spot? The only name that pops up that is off the grid would be Davey Richards. I mean, he's not wrestling, and I don't know what the plans are, but I know there was talk of him coming back and doing something independently. I know he's almost completely separated from wrestling, but wouldn't it be fitting that he be the one to... I mean, they've had their blood feud between the two of them, and it was... their significant others were involved in that as well. Why not it come to pass one more time? Or no one would see it necessarily.
I wonder if Davey Richards has the goodwill among promoters to swing that.
So we're looking at things from a more political standpoint and how he left things prior to.
I mean, that would be a very much out there kind of swerve.
What was...
Okay, hold on.
What was his relationship like with Impact on the way out?
I am not at all sure, because literally the last time I had ever heard anything about Davey Richards was when he no-showed an Alpha 1 event, which was everyone expected, because he no-showed the last time they booked him. So,
and there are ties to Alpha 1
Yep.
with Ethan Page, who operates that promotion, and his time with Impact. So, yeah. 6 degrees of separation doesn't look good for Eddie Edwards. Sorry, for Davey Richards.
I have a potential mystery attacker, which might explain why the cameras were off. Heath.
No.
I think if he wants the contract that bad, he might have to go to some particularly nasty places to do so. Which
they never did before. Yeah.
We saw earlier in the show he got some money off of, I can't remember who they pinched it from, but it was definitely money that they'd taken from somebody in order to finance their Heath for Impact campaign. Maybe the campaign is going to take some dark turns.
Well, that's another interesting kind of swerve. Heath turning to the dark side. I'm not sure if I like that. Obviously, he's played heels before, but I'm so used to him being...
Yeah, we're so used to him being goofy.
Yeah.
You almost seemed hurt. You almost sounded hurt. Like,
no, I
you're
love Heath.
Heartbroken by it.
I've loved Heath for years. He's one of my guilty pleasures of wrestling in general. He is such a cool dude, and just to even consider him as just jumping someone from behind. Obviously he's got kids to feed. He needs that contract, but man, no, that'll break my poor little heart. That would. So from breaking my heart to some past pieces that really filled my heart with joy, like that little segue there, folks. Mark, we had some great pieces actually come out. Now I'm gonna test you now, and you know what's coming. Our friend Alex, he did an unsung hero piece on someone that you've had trouble pronouncing. So let's go for it.
Yun Akiyama.
That's the one.
Woo!
That's the one.
Good job. Okay. Thank you. Don't applaud. just throw phonetic spelling in chats. That's what I say. So the premise for those that aren't familiar with our unsung heroes pieces, they're the talent that are so good and yet don't get the credit that they should or deserve to get. The preface that Alex gave to this extraordinary talent is that All Japan Pro Wrestling had their 4 pillars of heaven: Misawa, Kawada, Tao, and Kobayashi. And this is where Akiyama comes in. It's almost as if there was an unofficial 5th pillar in heaven, it would have been him. Extraordinary skill, extraordinary storytelling. And yet, when we discussed where he could have fit, in some eyes, he is a trailblazer. But because in the regards of others where he sits, I guess in that upper echelon, in the pillars of heaven, the 4 pillars of heaven, he would consider that unofficial 5th. And looking at the matches that he's had and the battles that he's had. Any thoughts, anyone, on Akiyama or this piece in general?
I will say that the guy had some truly had a truly phenomenal moveset. If you've seen his wrist clutch exploder suplex and all of his suplexes, really, I think he invented the exploder suplex and the Blue Thunder driver. Really an innovator of offense, to steal a nickname from Chris Kanyon.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, someone who is supremely technically gifted, and I think the only reason that he's not considered along with the 4 pillars of heaven is that he came along a little bit too late.
Right. And we're just looking at where they all seem to have had their exchanges at roughly the same time, and their rivalries amongst the 4 of them make them sit above everybody else. Whereas, like you'd said, he came a little later on, so he didn't have the same, I guess, blood feud. One of these days, we need to get Alex on to share his exchanges and thoughts on any of the pillars that we've talked about or any future unsung heroes.
That could be a show in itself, to be fair. Just do a Pillars of Heaven show. But yeah, that would be great. I have to thank YouTube a hell of a lot for All Japan, basically. When I was watching New Japan in the late 2000s, there was a lot of chatter about how much it compared to All Japan at that time, and I couldn't get hold of All Japan. So YouTube was my friend, and seeing a few of Yun's matches blew me away. And then reading Alex's piece blew me away even more, because there was so much history that I didn't know about. How close he was with the 4 pillars, how much he put the company on his back at times. It's a great piece. If you like your Japanese wrestling, you like your strong style, your puro, you need to read this, because it feels, for me anyway, it filled in a few blanks that I didn't even know existed at the time. So once again, a fantastic piece from Alex. Deserves all the praise in the world. And yes, let's get Alex on here for a special Puro special some point down the road.
We'll just explore his interests.
For sure. So from the East, let's cross over back to the West. An AEW talent preview that came out for one of AEW's newest recruits.
Yes, our own Jake Landmesser, who is becoming our AEW talent previewer connoisseur, if you can be one that devours writing, but I'm not even sure if that made sense much. But he refeatures, if you've seen him even before, if he was on AEW Dark, even leading up to his time in AEW, probably the smoothest spine buster you'll see anywhere. The height, the depth, the impact, it's as if he took Arn Anderson's spine buster, raised it, elevated, and added more strength to it when he hits it. And he almost built in that Arn Anderson frame is Will Hobbs. Everybody needs willpower. Jake previews running down his career, where he was, where he is, and hopefully where he's going. And this came out yesterday as we're recording, so on the Wednesday.
Unfortunately, Will Hobbs had to miss his main event match on Dynamite yesterday.
Certainly did. We'll definitely get into that in a bit. But yeah, Will did head to miss his main event match. I to my unfortunate credit, if that's the way to say it, I didn't know much about Will until AEW Dark, as you said. And I remember specifically watching All Out, the pay-per-view just gone, with my wingman and the Casino Battle Royal. And my wingman was absolutely transfixed by Hobbs. He was like, who is this dude? Who is this guy that is built like a proverbial brick house and is throwing people around like they're just no one? He's got the look. He's got everything. I mean, my son's 8 and he's talking about look, for Christ's sake. So he knows that, you know, this guy is just taking his eye, so to speak. So I explained who Will Hobbs was, and unfortunately, he was looking forward to seeing him on Dynamite, and that went kind of wrong for things we're going to talk about in a bit. But yeah, Will Hobbs, again, the Jake's piece filled in the gaps that I didn't know existed for me, where he was, what he's done. I mean, he was at All Pro Wrestling, and yeah, the part about him meeting Booker T as a child kind of set him on the road to being a wrestler. Yeah, it's just a very good story of how somebody wanted to make it in the business and did what he could. Fantastic. So from our past pieces, we're going to quickly switch gears and we're going to talk about some indie news. I know people are going to moan at me for this point and say that New Japan is not an indie. Yeah, I know, but indie covers a whole breadth of things, and we've got 3 promotions already on here, so indie covers the rest, and unfortunately New Japan falls under it. So after that long explanation, let's crack on with the G1 update. The G1 up began last week, and as at the time of recording, we have the points total. Does anybody want to do the points total, or are you going to leave it to me?
I can do it.
You want to do it? Okay. Yeah, so if Mark, you start with block A, and who's the movers and the shakers?
So right now we have a 3-way tie with a record of 2-0 and 4 points. We have Jay White, Taichi, and Will Ospreay, with a 4-way tie for second place with a record of 1-1. Jeff Cobb, Kota Ibushi, Minoru Suzuki, Kazuchika Okada, all with 2 points and a record of 1-1 each. Tomohiro Ishii, Shingo Takagi. See, this part we didn't plan for. And Yuro Takahashi, all with records of 0-2 and 0 points. So we have multiple men tied for first, multiple men tied for second, and multiple men tied for third. Little surprises there with.
I know we're only 2 matches into this mammoth G1, but is anything there take your fancy? Is there any surprises? What we got? What are we looking at, Pete?
For A block, I didn't necessarily expect Will Ospreay to get to be doing this well so early on. I am very disappointed that Tomohiro Ishii has not won a match yet, but I'm holding out hope that we could have some late tournament game changers. Pleased with how Minoru Suzuki's doing. Not great, but he's doing all right. And yeah, Okada kind of stuck in the middle there. That's a big surprise from A block.
The thing that gets me is Takahashi. 0 points. Not 1 win. That's strange. Is his star on the wane now? Is it? I'm not sure.
Unfortunately, I am not as up on New Japan as some of the others here. Shall I take B block then?
You can crack on with B block.
So we have a 3-way tie for first in B block between Tetsuya Naito, Toru Yano, and Juice Robinson. A 4-way tie for second place between Zack Sabre Jr., Kenta, Evil, and Hiroki Goto. And third place in B block, a 3-way tie between Hiroshi Tanahashi, Sanada, and Yoshihashi. I think this has more surprises than A block.
This when it was when the G1 was announced and the blocks and the participants, everyone was really talking about how can I put it? How they were expecting such big things. I don't think many people were expecting the surprises so far after 2 matches in each block.
Yeah, really.
It's very strange.
we're looking at a situation where Toru Yano may do better than Zack Sabre Jr. and even Evil.
I know.
Better than the champion of the company, a dual champion. And
That's
Hiroshi Tanahashi has been the John Cena of New Japan for quite a while now, and to see him rack up nothing in two matches, that's just incredible.
As you said, it's incredible. It's a strange one. The bookers of New Japan are trolling us all, I think. Really are. We're not expecting Ospreay to be 2-0 because the guy hasn't really done much during lockdown, and he's flown back to Japan and knocking it out of the park and looking like he hasn't missed a step. You've got Naito, who's obviously Naito and deserves that, and then you've got Tanahashi, who should be up there. He should be challenging. He should be 2-0, and he's 0-2 with no points, and the future looks bleak. What about yourself, Mark?
I think Toru Yano might have some sort of, it might be something with selling of his DVDs or something like that might be involved in why he's got this advantage. Maybe others feel indebted and feel like, come on, pick this win up or get this. As anybody's seen his gimmick, can be quite comical itself, right? So, yeah, Yano being 2-0 is interesting. Excited for Juice Robinson, and you guys have already addressed Tanahashi. Really, it is surprising, but again, like we've all said, it's two matches in. The favorites, the cream is yet to completely rise. Let's see this after the tournament's come to its end. But interesting start, no doubt. Really shocked by Sonata too. It's easy to say that, right? Like former champions, present champions, those that haven't.
As you said, we're only 2 matches in on both blocks. There's still time for the status quo to go back to normal, so to speak, or there could be time for even more shocks. So we will be back here next week with more G1, with our G1 update. I might even try and create my own little jingle for that for next week. During this past week, the NWA Women's World the NWA Women's World Championship, easy for you to say, was contested on Tuesday night on UWN's primetime pay-per-view. According to Dave Meltzer, it was a standout match. Has any of you two seen it?
I gotta confess, I have not.
Okay, that makes 2 of us. And Mark?
Oh, let's make it a trifecta of unfortunately not seeing it. And there was which is unfortunate because I think that Thunder Rosa's had some pretty quality matches. You saw something where you're a little disappointed by her performance in one more recent one.
So folks, yeah. Mark has been banging Thunder Rosa's drum for quite a while, saying how great she is, and I need to catch a look at her properly. So my first match was, unfortunately, her match against Shida at All Out, and I really wasn't impressed. The chemistry wasn't there. Thunder looked like she'd never run the ropes before. It was really, really strange. And I had some harsh words for Mark privately, basically saying, "What are you making me watch? This was awful." But apparently I was wrong. This match, according to I'm gonna give you what Dave Meltzer said here. He's put both gave it their all. It went for nearly 25 minutes, and I didn't notice once there was no crowd. They worked a very fast-paced match and just kept going, hitting each other with harder and harder moves. Both women put in a performance that might have been the best of their careers. I cannot recommend this match enough. Now, I saw that, and I was like, right, I do need to go out of my way to watch it. And do you think I can find it anywhere? Can I buggery? So even highlights, even a quick 3-minute highlight package, and I can't find anything. So I will be going out of my way this coming week to try and find some highlights. And I will be, if I find them, I will post them on my Twitter. I will post them on the Pro Wrestling Podcast Twitter. And yeah, if Dave says it's worth a look, then it's got to be worth a look. I don't normally take his opinion that well, but I mean, I don't think he didn't give it a star rating or anything like that. But a 25-minute match, it's got to be worth a look, surely, guys.
Oh, for sure.
What about you? What about you, Pete? Did you know much about the women involved? It was Thunder Rosa and Priscilla Kelly.
So yeah, I watch Dynamite religiously, and I've seen Thunder Rosa make her appearances on Dynamite. like you said, not really the best chemistry she's had with the members of the AEW roster. I am very much open to having my assumptions shattered. Yeah, I mean, Thunder Rosa's got a look. She's got the charisma, certainly. It just seems like I've been seeing her kind of out of her element.
Yeah, every time Mark's told me to watch her, she's been on NWA, and maybe that's where she felt more at home and a bit more relaxed. Whereas AEW is a brand new environment and everything else. It could be a whole multitude of variables, but yeah, she definitely looked a step off in AEW from when I've seen her. And then obviously her match on Tuesday night was one of the best women's matches this year by all accounts. So yeah, I need to find that.
It also occurs to me that I've only seen Priscilla Kelly in AEW, so I feel like I've been neglecting some of the finer points of women's wrestling. That's my bad.
Well, Priscilla Kelly's been reached out, and some of, I wouldn't say controversial. Well, maybe we could say controversial. That'd probably be a fair way to say it. Some of the things that she's done that's generated a reaction more on the indie scene, which others are upset by. There's a spot with the tampon that some might remember, and it didn't necessarily go over as well. Other things, but I mean, it's different, and that doesn't define her, no doubt. But for what we get a chance to see here, we're getting a chance to see the Priscilla Kelly, hopefully, that there was teased about in MLW. I don't know what her future will be there, and if that's gonna even come to pass, or if that's gonna take place. But because she had a running storyline with a character there, that character is no longer there, or in AEW. So let's see what happens. If it's gonna be something that weaves between NWA and AEW, or that partnership continues.
So this goes back to what I said about the all out women's match, is there could be some kind of relationship between both companies. So do you reckon there is something along those lines where cross promotion, everything else, until NWA can properly kickstart and restart again?
Probably. But right now, if there's still that relationship and opportunities are open and her contract allows for that flexibility, maybe she wants to take advantage of all of it. Her and Darby Allin are no longer going to be together, so not that one thing would have anything to do with another, but still being professional, still having that working relationship, still having opportunities out there. Why not be in AEW if it allows for it? Although her character's there is a bit of an edge and a little bit of a darkness to it. Does it fit in with a lot of what is happening in AEW, or would they have to change her up a little bit? I don't know.
And talking about AEW, let's quickly head across to AEW. We spoke earlier about the Will Hobbs AEW talent preview and how he couldn't show his wares basically in the main event. Pete, you said in your intro about a COVID situation. Could you expand on that a bit more?
So yesterday, it was very early yesterday morning. We learned that Lance Archer had tested positive for COVID, and we got in its place a match we got in the place of the scheduled main event, which was a 6-man tag match pitting Lance Archer, Ricky Starks, and Brian Cage against Jon Moxley, Darby Allin, and Will Hobbs. Instead of that, we got an AEW Championship match where Jon Moxley answered Eddie Kingston's challenge. Eddie Kingston claiming that he was never eliminated from the Casino Battle Royal. So, on top of that, we learned today that at least 6 other people who work for AEW full-time have also tested positive for COVID. So, what does this mean for the company? What does this mean for other AEW stars going forward?
Yeah, it's got a bit messy, especially as they've just started letting fans come into their shows as well. Mm-hmm. This is going to put the cat amongst the pigeons, I think.
Yeah. We were talking about this just before we recorded, and you were mentioning that it happened around the same time everyone was crowing about how good AEW's COVID testing policy is.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk, a lot of chatter saying that WWE's testing policy in general has been quite poor back at the Performance Center, and they should be looking at AEW because they got it spot on. And now, all of a sudden, I can see a lot of WWE fanatics and maybe even some high officials in WWE pointing their fingers and going, "See, it's not just us." So it's just poor timing, I think, on for that part for AEW. But have the names been announced yet, or were they just backstage people?
We only know two names, that being Lance Archer and, I wrote it down somewhere, Benjamin Carter, who had a match against Scorpio Sky this week on Late Night Dynamite.
Yeah. So
you mentioned how things have been at the Performance Center with WWE. There's been, I think 2 or 3 COVID outbreaks at the Performance Center, and this is really the first we're hearing from the AEW side. Now, I think that to say, oh well, something must have gone wrong, and they might be hiding something, is kind of a jump in the gun on the potential causes. I think what's really going to make a difference is how AEW responds.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if they decide that we shouldn't have fans here anymore, or we should have stricter COVID testing policies, we should have this, that, or the other, is really going to be the determinant of how we can talk about their reaction. Whereas WWE have been very, very quiet and secretive about how their testing policy works. And so is it necessarily fair for people to start comparing and contrasting? Maybe. We just did a little bit as we talked about the cases that have sprung up from the Performance Center. But I think maybe this is more related to like a second wave of COVID than to faults in anyone's testing, really.
Yeah, I mean, across the world, the figures are steadily rising. There's more cases out there. So with more cases, there's going to be more people that will be amongst each other, which means there's going to be more spread. It is... I don't mean to make this as flippant as it sounds, but it is just one of those things, because the more testing you do, the more results you're going to find. So there's AEW, I think, in this regard, with this news that came out yesterday, I think they will be forced to stop having fans at events, just in case. I know there's a huge gap between the fans in the middle tier, I think is the nearest they can get, and the wrestlers all around ringside. But you need to eliminate any and all risk, and that is a risk, as minuscule as that is. Plus, the fans that could mingle, and I mean, from what we've seen on the TV, they're all pretty much closely sat together. So even though there is social distancing, they're still around each other. So, I reckon fans are going to be gone. I mean, over here in the UK, literally yesterday, announcements were made that the trial run of fans back at football/soccer matches this weekend coming has been scrapped because of this second wave. So I can kind of guarantee that's going to be happening over your way soon, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's assuming that the government of Florida at least has that kind of sense.
Well, it depends how much money Vince has backhanded them, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, really.
What about you, Mark? I get kind of bi-weekly texts from you about cases in and around your way.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, because if that's going to be the case, you're going to take steps back. You have to think about everyone's safety. You would think that becomes the most important. In some cases, it isn't. Mistakes happen. I don't know if anybody's gonna ever have the complete answers what's right and what's the best policy, but if you test positive, you still were diligent or vigilant in that you still were tested, you still went through the process, and that they still removed him from the show. So for us as fans, remove them. Reduce from that standpoint as much as possible. But what happens with live events? Will more fans be available? I'd be very, very surprised. I'm sure, like you guys. But yeah,
in regards to live events, in the recent spate of WWE redundancies, I think most of them come from the live events sector. So Vince went on record a year or so ago in a conference call saying that the live event sector is on the downturn anyway. We may not be doing any or all live events. Could the live events business be done? It's the business itself has changed from what it was 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago, where live events is where you got your money from. If you can get yourselves on TV, that's where you're going to get the bulk of your money from nowadays.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's
it's not looking very good.
Been very good at all.
We going to talk about more stuff from AEW?
We're going to lighten the mood a little bit. We've done our political, scientific kind of chat, and we're going to actually talk about a couple of, one surprise and one debut, or in-ring debut.
Yes, Miro making his in-ring debut in a tag team match with partner Kip Sabian. Blanked for a second. Kip Sabian.
You're lucky that was in English.
Anyway, Miro and Kip Sabian versus Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss. Miro looking on form as ever, really hasn't lost a step since stepping away from wrestling to take on the world of Twitch streaming. And really the only question I have is why did he get rid of the knee pads? That's just one of my little gripes about wrestling. Protect your knees. Come on.
Oh my word!
It's because he was wearing kick pads, kind of covered up.
The two things I took away from Miro's debuts. One, as you said, he hasn't lost a step. He looks bloody great. He's still a 280-pound plus behemoth in that ring. And two, I don't know if you guys picked it up, but Jim Ross made a bit of a faux pas when Miro slapped on his game over finisher. Jim Ross called it the Accolade. And I think it was quickly put in his place by Tony Schiavone, I think. Saying, no, it might have been Excalibur. No, it's game over and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, he did say it was the Accolade, and it made me chuckle.
Yes,
he
that did
great.
happen. He did look great.
He did look great. What about you, Mark? What do you reckon to Miro?
I didn't get a chance to watch his debut, but the fact that he's part of AEW, that I heard he gave a really heated promo too. He's had this fire invigorated in him. The fact that he's there, we'll see where that all goes. I don't see this relationship with Kip Sabian lasting beyond the wedding. It could just be the foot in the door. But good times. Yeah, that's really all to say about it.
Yeah, his promo last week was that was pretty good. A few little jabs there at Uncle Vince and a few others back in the E. But it was great. And a certain somebody returned.
Yes, Cody returning from his brief break to shoot that reality show, the Go Big Show, what I can only describe as the most American-looking reality show I've ever seen. He returned, no longer has the blonde hair, is rocking a jet black do, and he showed up after Brody Lee's match against Orange Cassidy for the TNT Championship, surprise appearance, and then attacked everybody except Brody Lee. I wonder what that's about.
As you do, you get put on the shelf by someone. What do you do when you come back? You take out all the cohorts and leave the guy that put you on the shelf, as you do.
Yeah, I got a question though about his appearance. Did anyone notice something else about his appearance, his attire when he made his return?
Ooh, I was too busy being shocked at how young he looks. Now he's got colour in his hair.
Fair enough.
Yeah, sorry. No, what else was on there?
His entire outfit was either black or purple. Those are Dark Order colors.
Ooh.
I'm not going to make any suggestions about where Cody's allegiances are, what drove him to dye his hair black, but I just think that's an important thing to point out. Not sure how that's going to enter into it, because shortly afterwards, Brody Lee effectively challenged Cody to a dog collar match for the TNT Championship.
Yeah, dog collar match. It's been a while since I've seen a dog collar match.
His dad must be looking down and smiling.
Yeah,
the last dog collar match I saw was at Alpha One, actually, and it was between Ethan Page and anyone want to hazard a guess?
Davey Richards.
Hilarious.
Is that why you
No
know
wonder
something?
he didn't
No.
get booked.
No, Maxwell Jacob Friedman.
Oh, nice.
So I quite enjoy dog collar matches just as an alternative to the cage match. But there's been all kinds of classic dog collar matches from the 80s. Roddy Piper versus Greg Valentine comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's really something that they're doing just because they don't have space for a cage in Daly's place.
Right.
It's like they can't really suspend it from above the ring, and they can't really just show up and slap it together while the show's still going on. So as a nice little alternative, I think that works very well.
That makes a lot of sense. As you said, they haven't got the time or the capabilities to put a cage up quick smart on live TV. So second best thing is a dog collar match. And as Mark said, somebody's looking down on him thinking, thank you very much for bringing that back. It's been a while. Yeah, it's an ode to his father there, I think.
And if he's gonna win the title back, that seems like as good a way as any
to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Yeah, it could work. Or if you're talking about these Dark Order colours, it would just be a major swerve where he just lays down.
Yeah.
does a Nash. You never know.
I don't think he would do that. Just because Nash has so much heat for that to this day.
Hey, leave Big Sexy alone.
Hey, I like Kevin Nash too. I just understand that the guy is able to make him being a so-and-so sound like fun.
I can't wait for Clint, our resident WCW guy. I can't wait for Clint to get to that era, and I'd love to know what he was thinking. That would be a good read. So there we are, folks. That is the end of another Pro Wrestling Post podcast. It has been a great fun as always. Apologies again for not being here last week, but those audio gremlins, we will catch them and spank them many times with a ping pong bat. So, guys, where can we find? Sorry,
but Mark, before we let you go, or before you let us go, there's a name I've been hoping to say. I've been trying to practice it all episode. Utami Hayashita. Did I say it right? Did I say it right?
Hayashishita.
Hayashishita. Utami Hayashishita.
Hey.
That name is important before we go, is it not?
For my sins, Mark, for my sins, fill me in on Utami, please.
Utami is it's a featured Joshi spotlight piece that our own Matthew, who I would try to pronounce his last name, but I will not even attempt to, for sake of respect for him, much like I should have done for Miss Hayashishita. That piece will be profiling this coming Monday, profiling her rise to the top over the last 2 to 3 years and where she is now. And at one point, she was known as Utami Four Belts.
I wonder where Becky got those from then.
Interesting.
So okay. That's a Joshi Spotlight wash coming out this Monday, was that?
It was. Looking forward to it.
Indeed. Matthew, feel free to admonish me in the super secret Facebook group chat for nearly forgetting your piece. I do apologise profusely. But now is the time where we are going home. Guys, where can we find you on the socials? Pete, where can we find you?
Gonna plug my weekly feature again. Brace for Impact every Monday on the Pro Wrestling Post website. Read my feature. You can find me on Twitter at Pete Probably. And you can find me in real life at the secret location I've been hinting at all episode.
So we tried this last week, listeners, and obviously you didn't get to hear it because the audio gremlins. So here we go. During this episode, Pete has been dropping hints about his super secret location. If you can work out where it is, hit us up. Either Pete personally, Mark personally, myself, or the Pro Wrestling Post podcast page. Hit us up. If you get it right, we'll give you a massive shout out next week. And I'll promise you, I won't do what I did with Matthew and nearly forget. Mark, where can we find you?
I'm really wanting to know if I should change my Twitter handle to @MarkDefinitely, because I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure if it's got the zing that Pete's probably does. But you can reach me personally at the Mark Madison. Tweet, shout, throw things at me. I try and dodge them as best as possible. You can reach our site, social media on Twitter at Pro Wrestling PST, or on Instagram at Pro Wrestling Posts.
And if people are changing their Twitter handles, I may change mine to Mark Procrastinates. But until then, you can find me on Twitter at Mark Blake PWP, and you can also find the very podcast's own Twitter at PWP_pod. Now, with all that done, we'd like to say thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back here, same time, same place, next week. So until then, adios.
Ciao.